makes clothes.
There's water waist deep and even higher in parts of Mobile, Alabama this morning, the legacy of Hurricane George. And while the storm is now a tropical storm, it is still threatening heavy rain again today in some areas. Good morning. Welcome to this special edition of Weather Center. I'm Rick Griffin here with Dr. Steve Lyons. We'll check with him and get his analysis on the future movement of Hurricane George, or I should say Tropical Storm George, in just a moment. First, all the facts and figures, including the latest position, which is near Mobile, Alabama, at 30.8 north and 88.1 west. Top sustained winds are about 40 miles per hour. And the movement of George is east-northeast at 8, the pressure 993 millibars. The tropical storm warnings remain in effect this morning from Pascagoula, Mississippi, eastward to Destin, Florida. Let's get a look at some of the damage from George so far. These are scenes of some of the damage caused by George in Biloxi, Mississippi. And you're still dealing with flood problems this morning. However, sunshine this afternoon should help the recovery process gain some momentum. Mobile, Alabama, also hit hard by George, is in for more rain today, and that's after upwards of a foot of rain yesterday. New Orleans, though, has been spared the worst of the worst concerning George, but the area became a virtual ghost town. That's due to thousands of residents packing shelters. About 100,000 of New Orleans' 450,000 residents fled the hurricane. Returning evacuees caused massive traffic jams on highways leading into the city on Monday. Well, we have Weather Channel live crews in the field. Okay, we're going to go to Dr. Steve Lyons first. Steve, the main threat now is not so much the wind, but the continuing very heavy rainfall.
That's right. Really, the wind is pretty much over land, other than in some local thunderstorms. It still remains a problem offshore. If you're in a small vessel, don't go into the area. But overall, our primary impacts now are behind the tropical storm. We still will have some flooding, and that will be associated with river, stream, and other small creek flooding there. Out ahead of it, we still have some rain potential up in here and some severe weather, and that rain potential will extend off into the greater Georgia area later today and into tonight. We still have some winds of 40 miles per hour and seas 10 to 15 feet out here off the shore, but those will subside rather steadily later this afternoon. One thing to keep in mind, a lot of water around here in Mobile Bay. The high tide is just about right now, 6 a.m. Central Daylight Time. So any drainage out of that bay that's trying to occur is going to be temporarily impeded.
Steve, looking at the satellite picture this morning, we can see a few features. First of all, the cloud tops appear to be warming. That indicates some weakening. And also the cloud mass stretching out southwest northeast a bit. Is that indicating some upper level winds that may move George a little quicker or maybe cut down on the additional rain amounts?
That's correct. We see an upper level flow that's here, and that's really helping push George along off to the east or just north of east here. Circulation center being right about here, and of course a lot of mid and high cloud over the greater Georgia area Atlanta this morning, heading into South Carolina as well, all the way up into North Carolina. You see a high cloud from George, but still some pretty good inflow off the Gulf of Mexico here, producing some shower activity and some severe weather over the area, and that should continue the next 24 hours. But it should continue on a general east-northeast track the next 24 hours. The only thing that would impede that is if the circulation weakens so much that it becomes just a low-level swirl.
Rain amounts have been incredible. In fact, Doppler estimates of up to 35 inches of rain, almost 3 feet of rain. Now, that's just an estimate, but these are official rain gauge totals. Munson, Florida, 25.06 inches of rain, and our Doppler radar estimated rainfall confirms that, Steve, and also confirms what you were indicating with the storm, that the heaviest rainfall would be east of the track of the center of George.
Yeah, and if you look from the time of landfall till now, it has not moved much, and the speed of motion is on the order of about 3 miles an hour. If you can remember that graphic we had shown before about rain potential, 33 inches was sort of the maximum totals we had. So we're not too far off on that. Of course, we still have a lot of heavy showers moving north, primarily associated with the convergence of the westerly flow and the southeasterly flow here, and there's a big plume of moisture coming up in there, producing very balmy weather all the way up into Columbus and of course in Atlanta as well.
Very tropical type morning. That's Santa Rosa County, by the way, in the Florida Panhandle that reported or actually had that Doppler radar estimate of up to 3 feet of rainfall, and there's more rain to come, although it's not quite as heavy as it's been recently. Well, now let's go to our Weather Channel crews out in the field. First stop, Kristen. And also Jeff Morrow. He is in Montgomery, Alabama. I believe Kristen is going to be with us for the first report.
Well, that's right, Rick. I'm in Mobile, Alabama, and we still see a big problem here with street flooding, not only with a foot of rain yesterday, but also with storm surge to boot. I am standing on the corner of Dauphin and Water Street. The convention center is behind me, and Mobile Bay is just off to my right. And this is one area that has been flooded out for the past 24 hours at least. You can see behind me we still have plenty of street flooding. This is covered with water, almost nearly impassable. About 1.5 feet of water does remain on this street. We also have seen some problems with flooding in the causeway, which crisscrosses its way through Mobile Bay and heads toward Daphne. That route now cut off to Daphne. And also, if you had plans to head out to Dauphin Island to check out some of the damage, it looks like that road also closed. Dauphin Island Parkway south of Cedar Point is shut down. We have some light rain continuing to fall here, periodically a gusty wind, but most of that is going to be tapering off. The big problem today will be the river flooding after yesterday's foot of rain that fell. All of that is going to be running off into the rivers and causing some big problems with the water coming out of the banks. So watch out for that if you do live in Mobile. With heavier rain, we join Jeff Morrow, and he is in Montgomery, Alabama. Jeff?
All right, thanks, Kristen. And indeed, it is a pretty nasty morning here in central Alabama. It's been gusting 25, 30 miles an hour. Actually worse than when we were here last evening. Officially here in Montgomery at the airport, a little over 5 1/3 inches. That was as of about an hour and a half or so ago. No reports of any flooding right around Montgomery County or anywhere here in central Alabama. We'll know more, of course, when the sun comes up here in another hour or so and be able to finally see if there has been at least some low-lying flooding. But they can pretty much handle 5 or so inches of rain here. We're expecting this to continue, obviously, throughout the day, and as more rain piles up, we're probably going to end up with more problems. We'll be here to tell you about it. Now back to you, Rick.
Jeff Morrow, Montgomery, Alabama. Well, let's go right to our Southeast Regional radar, and we can see on radar this morning that we have a lot of rain, and it is tracking in towards Montgomery with officially heavy rain reported in the last hour and a wind gust to the east, out of the east at 30. Flood and flash flood watches in effect. A number of you are under warnings at this point in Alabama and Florida. Plus, Steve, the severe weather tornado threat remains in place. There's the watch, and Steve, the most intense storms right now in southwest Georgia, and those have been tornadic recently.
That's correct. And anywhere basically north and east of the circulation center, which is about right here, is the area where we expect the most severe weather, most likelihood for severe weather there. So it's going to continue to move off to the north, and of course we see the greatest pressure falls along the coast due east of the circulation center. So it's going to continue on a generally eastward track, just slightly north of east.
Okay, those will be, by the way, the tornadoes will be short-lived and isolated, but be alert for rapidly changing conditions today. Stay with us for frequent updates. Don't forget weather.com. Our website on the internet. And now back to the studio with Mark Mancuso and more on the weather across the lower 48.
All right, thank you, Rick. In this edition of your Good Morning Forecast brought to you by Husqvarna. This frontal zone across Missouri has been active overnight and this morning. A line of severe storms continues to press southeastward down through the Ozarks here. So be on the alert for hail the size of quarters and winds gusting to 70 miles an hour here for the next hour or so as these storms move southeast at 40 miles per hour. Northeast, you're looking at a great day today. Some patchy fog in the valleys where the air has cooled from the 40s to the 30s. But after the chilly start, it should be a pleasant afternoon. In the south, there's your tropical system bringing rain to Birmingham and Atlanta today. So it'll be wise to bring along the umbrellas here. While to the west, we'll be looking at a bubble of high pressure driving cooler conditions and drier conditions into the Twin Cities. Closing in on the Northeast, a beautiful day for Syracuse.
It's to Raceway Park near Englishtown, New Jersey. This Saturday and Sunday, the 3rd and 4th. Supercross and 250cc Outdoor AMA National Championship MX racing with the entire factory Kawasaki Pro team and 500 of the country's finest. Saturday is Amateur Trophy Day. Sunday, the big day when the pros and experts do battle on the Lightning Fast Raceway Park motocross track. Gates open at 7, racing at 1, rain or shine. Tickets at the gate for the Kawasaki Motocross Race of Champions.
Unexpected weather can really mess up your day, and preparing people for it is our business. Business is good.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Minutes before the hour. You've tuned in just in time for our tropical update. Of course, we have the latest on George. We've been talking about George for the last 2 weeks or so. Finally, it has made its final destination in the southeast, and very heavy rain associated with it. Flood watches have been issued. We'll show those to you in a moment. It's centered about 20 miles north of Mobile, Alabama, with winds of 40 miles an hour. It's moving northeast at 7 miles an hour, and there you see the lowest pressure. The thing about it is that it has been downgraded to a tropical storm. It is expected to be downgraded even more so later this morning or this afternoon to a tropical depression. But no time too soon. We've had copious amounts of rain. Munson, Florida, over 25 inches. That's in the panhandle of Florida near Milton. Crestview, over 15.5 inches. Bay Minette, Alabama, 14.5 inches. Mobile, Alabama, a foot of rain we've seen so far. In Montgomery, we've had about 5 1/3 inches of rain. Here's a look at the flood watches. Needless to say, they are in effect for the panhandle of Florida, southwest Georgia, and even the east central parts of Alabama. Now, travel is not even recommended in some areas. The panhandle of Florida here, southern Alabama, where we've received the brunt of the heaviest rain. Rain has started to move into southwest, or should I say west central Georgia, including the Atlanta metro area this morning. We've had a line of very intense storms right here of the panhandle of Florida, and earlier some of these thunderstorms possibly producing tornadoes in southwest Georgia because a very unstable atmosphere is built here. Winds at the surface are from the south and winds aloft are from the west, and that type of scenario is creating these stormy conditions and possible tornadic activity. Of course, with all landfalling hurricanes, you have the scenario for tornadoes, so that's what we're watching. A closer inspection shows just west of Panama City of the Panhandle here, this whole line stretching from Montgomery down into the Panhandle of Florida. It is a soggy scenario for sure. Montgomery and as far far north as Birmingham here, and the different vantage point local close-up radar out of Atlanta shows the thunderstorms on the east, well, actually the southwest side of the perimeter here, Fulton County, Cobb County, very heavy rain this morning, so it will be a slow go, your morning commute, the Atlanta area, so allow extra time, and it'll probably be an all-day event, the rain around Atlanta. You can get a good soaking, at least 2 inches. Much needed rain actually around the Atlanta area. Here's a look at another system. This is Hurricane Jeanne. Now Jeanne is moving east-northeast at 21 miles an hour, so it's moving away from the lower 48 into cooler waters and is expected to weaken. Stay with us. We'll take you to the Forecast Center for more on George next.
The storm surge is receding. Now river flooding will be a big problem in Mobile, Alabama. I'm Kristen Dodd. I'll have a live report in Weather Center next.
This program was sponsored by the Home Depot.
As a customer, you're so important to us that you should have the best price all the time. Why shop somewhere else when you know every day you're going to come in and get that low price?
Home Depot doesn't have sales because we have an everyday low price.
But the competitors have to have the sales because they jack their prices up so high. But we keep our prices low.
Biloxi, Mississippi is among a number of places dealing with the aftermath of what was Hurricane George. Flooding is still a problem. However, sunshine is headed your way. That's not the case, however, in other areas. In Baldwin County, Alabama, for instance, just east of Mobile, the rain continues this hour. Heavy rain and a powerful storm surge yesterday filled the streets with water. What's left of George today brings the threat of severe weather in addition to the flooding. Good morning. Welcome to this special edition of Weather Center. I'm Rick Griffin. I'll be joined by Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert, in just a moment. First, let's look at the latest position on Tropical Storm George, 20 miles north of Mobile. That was the last report at 31 north and 88 west. Top sustained winds are about 40 miles per hour, and George may be downgraded to a tropical depression later on this morning. The movement of George northeast at 7, the estimated pressure 993 millibars. Tropical storm warnings remain in place. Pascagoula, Mississippi to Destin, Florida, including Mobile Bay. Let's go on and take a look at our satellite picture this morning. The center of George, very close to Mobile in here. The heaviest weather on the east and northeast side of the tropical storm, while skies are clearing over southern Mississippi and southeast Louisiana, and the winds are slackening. That's going to aid in the cleanup process today. Rain amounts have been incredible. Official amounts, as you can see here in Munson County, or Munson, Florida, Santa Rosa County, in the Panhandle, 25 inches. And radar estimates exceed 35 inches at this point, and in some areas that have had the heaviest rain, more rain is falling this morning, in some cases very, very heavily, especially in southern Alabama, the Panhandle of Florida, and now some heavy downpours up near Atlanta, Georgia, on the fringe of Tropical Storm George. Well, to Mississippi we go now. There's cleanup today in parts of the state in the wake of Hurricane George. Places along the Mississippi and Alabama coastline took the brunt of the storm's fury. Curfews remain in effect in Pascagoula, and it will be days before some of the multitudes of evacuees return home. President Clinton has declared parts of 4 states along the Gulf disaster areas, clearing the way for federal aid. In Alabama, 2 Weather Channel crews on the scene. Jeff Morrow's in Montgomery. Kristen Dodd is in Mobile, and we start with Kristen.
And good morning to you, Rick. Everyone is beginning to get back to normal here in Mobile as we are seeing the waters recede slowly. A lot of folks are heading into work. We've seen a lot of traffic around the downtown area. A lot of umbrellas going up because we still have a very steady rain here in downtown Mobile. Behind me you can see a little bit of the storm damage and what is left after those floodwaters have receded. A lot of debris left in the roadway. You can see a bending tree due to some of the stronger winds that we had here. Also, farther off to my right, we have several cargo containers that were toppled when the storm surge came in from Mobile Bay. Quite powerful, as you can see, to be able to topple those very heavy ship containers. Now we're going to be looking at river flooding today. Yesterday we had about a foot of rain here. That is going to be running into some of the smaller streams and creeks as well as the rivers here in Mobile. That could cause a big problem with flooding later on today as the rivers are expected to rise. So watch out if you do live in some low-lying areas. Just because you haven't received flooding yet doesn't mean that you have escaped it totally. We'll continue to monitor the situation. Now with more steady rain in Montgomery, here's Jeff Morrow. Jeff?
Boy, Kristen, you have that right. It has been a steady rain ever since we got up early this morning. And as dawn broke, it really broke on just a tremendously soggy, blustery scene here across Montgomery. We're working on about a half a foot of rain here so far through the entire storm, and of course more on the way since it is such a slow-moving system. The main concern here, and of course anywhere from central southern Alabama down toward where Kristen is at the coast, is of course the tremendous flooding. Now we haven't gotten some of those rainfall totals of 25 to 30 inches, but we have had, as I said, almost a half a foot. Have not had any reports of any significant flooding around here yet, but that may change if the rain continues to come down at this rate. It is an extremely soggy day. So we'll keep an eye on it here from central Alabama. Had a little bit of thunder actually just a little while ago. Hadn't heard any of that this morning, so we'll watch out for maybe some dangerous lightning. Don't think we have to worry too much about tornadoes like we did last night. Back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Jeff Morrow, Montgomery, Alabama. We turn now to Dr. Steve Lyons, our tropical system specialist. Steve, the heaviest rain so far has been in the Florida Panhandle and southern Alabama. Where would you anticipate the heaviest rain shifting to next? Could it be parts of Georgia, for instance?
It sure could. It looks like the system, the low pressure system that we're looking at, tropical storm, I should say, that we expect to be downgraded to tropical depression soon, although there's still some strong winds off the coast. Be shifting off to the east gradually as it moves to the east. It's not moving all that fast, but here's sort of an expected impact. First of all, notice this river flooding back here in the Biloxi River and some of the other rivers in Alabama and on east as well. Also in the Florida Panhandle here, a couple of rivers here. We'll have a graphic for you to show you some of the flood stages expected. Some of these crests for flooding are not going to occur till tomorrow or the next day, even though the rain is already gone. So it takes a long time for those to come. And so flooding is not over, even though the rain is over in those areas to the west. Still some strong winds off the coast here with some seas 10, 15 feet. So stay out of there if you're a small vessel. It's not a safe place to be. And the rain should be shifting off to the northeast here. And as it does go off to the northeast, we expect it to diminish in intensity somewhat.
Well, flood warnings remain in effect for many of the counties in south central, southwest Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. And Steve, here is why. This is our Doppler estimated rainfall, which is just basically off the scale. And as we've been mentioning this morning, some unofficial amounts of around 35 inches of rain from George so far.
So far, yeah. This is just since 8 a.m. yesterday. So we're not accumulating all of it that we had the previous day. But you can see in some of these areas where we have these continuous bands stretching up there like we saw just a minute ago. Those bands are extremely heavy. It just produces thunderstorm after thunderstorm there and accumulates rain upwards of 10 to 15 inches. Very disastrous situation for flooding.
Yes, indeed. And as we notice here, New Orleans really escaped the heaviest rain scenario. And that's the case this morning with skies clearing in New Orleans and southern Mississippi too. But here's the center of George, and how much rain's falling with these bands? These are very heavy tropical downpours.
Right, it looks like right now about anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, depending on where you are. But in those orange and yellow areas here, near the center line here, probably on the order of 2 to 4 inches per hour. The dark green is more like 1 to 3 inches per hour. Light green is usually less than 1 inch per hour. That's a rough or crude approximation there, but really heavy accumulations there.
And the heavier rains are now into Montgomery. They've had about a half a foot of rain so far, and also in Atlanta, Steve, heavy rains. How long do you think that's going to last, and how much rain can Atlanta expect?
Well, what's going to happen here is out ahead of the circulation, we've got all that warm, moist air coming up out of the tropics. It feels like Miami and Atlanta this morning when I got up early, and that'll continue very balmy, and that can produce local thunderstorms with surface heating as that warm air moves north. So local development of thunderstorms and rain are possible. Right now, I think the heaviest rain will stay back to the southwest for a while.
Severe weather, would you say the biggest threat right now is west central Georgia and eastern Alabama? Is that where the most unstable air is at this time?
Yeah, most unstable air. We've already had some tornado warnings in here for some of these very strong thunderstorm cells. And also in here, this band may have some severe weather, but I think the biggest area is actually in extreme southwest Georgia right now.
Okay, and that's where our tornado watch is posted until 11 Eastern Daylight Time this morning. And it's possible that another watch box will be issued as the day unfolds. We'll keep you posted. Stay with us for frequent updates on Tropical Storm George. Again, it may be downgraded to a tropical depression later. Meanwhile, remember online you can get the latest at weather.com, our internet site. And now back to Mark Mancuso in the studio.
And this edition of this morning's weather and forecast brought to you by Campbell's. And looking across the nation, severe storms now erupting in northwest Kansas. These are dangerous storms. They can produce high winds and large hail. In the northeast, it is a beautiful day with high pressure overhead, and much cooler, drier air is sinking southward down through Virginia this morning. Temperatures around Washington, D.C., 10 to 15 degrees cooler than what they were yesterday at this time. Currently, it's 60 in D.C., and 46 in Albany, New York. Elmira in the Finger Lakes region earlier was down into the 30s. Now as we head our way to the west, mild air can be found around St. Louis, Kansas City, and Des Moines. And there's a warm front in the vicinity here that has been very active overnight and this morning with scattered strong storms.